We're at the Wołoshin family dairy farms here. This time looking at another aspect of the Holy Week preparation and our traditions in the family. And this one is really a mystery we haven't touched upon yet. And it basically has to do here, as you see the cutting of the meat, here has to do with the sacrifice of Jesus. Because the food that we share reminds us of his sacrifice. And the mystery we are actually encountering here is the fact that giving life is life-giving. So there was an animal here that had to give its life, so we enjoy any type of meat, not just Polish sausage, which we're going to be making here. And that whole process of butchering the meat, we have both the expert here, Steve Wołoshin, who is the main farmer here and head of Wołoshin Farms, who's doing the slicing around the bone to get it off so we can grind it. And we also have Tony Toszek Zawadzki here from, I like to say from the old country, but from Poland, who is a both butcher specialist, as you'll hear some of his family was, and also a tradition bearer extraordinaire. So, Toszek here, what was your first memory of making sausage when you were a child?
Well, as far as I can remember, way back in Poland, what we used to have to make sausage. And then we roasted our own hog. Oh, there was only about 400 pounds.
So 400-pound pig.
When we brought this out from the barn, my father and my uncle was excellent butcher. When I was a little boy, about 2 years old, when I started killing the hog, I ran onto the bed. Was afraid of the killing of the hog. Then, after I was about 5 years old, my father and my uncle said, "Wait a minute, Toszek, you gotta hold the pen for the blood. What we have to catch, the blood for the kishka." So my job was holding the pen. And my uncle stick the big knife under the throat, cut the artery, and I catch all the blood. And my uncle, when it was finished, took the finger, mixed around, so when settled, tasted, oh, it's good.
That was a sign that the meat was going to be good too. And also it was used to make, because back in the old country, nothing was ever thrown away, nothing was wasted. So you didn't even waste the blood itself. You used it to make another specialty called kishka, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Then when we have the hog inside with a big container, then we start to, my mother was boiling the water, boiling hot, and we spread it over the hog slowly, piece by piece, and clean all the hair completely. But all the clean was done, and the hog we hung up, my father and uncle hung up the hog, and my uncle started to separate all the meat from the cut in half. Then we cut in half, they put on a big table, and he separated the meat for this, for that, for bacon, for hams, for the sausage, and so on. When this was done, then we have to cut the meat for the sausage.
Just like Steve is doing over here, he's cutting the pork butt part of the pork for sausage.
Yeah. So when we cut this, all the meat together, my uncle prepared the garlic, all the ingredients, what we needed, mix it all. Then we work all pretty good work with the meat to have ready for the casing. So when it was done, we start putting, my uncle has a big tube and a plug and an end with the sausage, and he put the tube against the table and shoo, and the table, the kielbasa came like this, the sausage round, big, beautiful round. Then was it done some, then was a little that. Then my uncle said, "Hey, Toshi, come on over, taste how it smells." I tried to smell, and he hit me with the sausage on the nose.
So in this particular section here of, as Steve is slicing the meat, we heard the story of Toszek's first encounter with slaughtering, basically. And none of us usually ever see the meat slaughtered, but Jesus himself was slaughtered by people and hung on the cross. And so one of the ways we, in a certain way, participate, because his death, his execution, brought us life, just like the meat of an animal, which has to be killed, has to be slaughtered, gives us life, and that animal gives up its life so we can live. So the real true life, the mystery here is only the life which gives is life-giving. And that particular aspect of Holy Week is what we celebrate here in the preparation of the meat, and also in the smoking of that meat or cooking of that meat, all signs of, in this case, an animal giving its life so we can live. Because only the life which gives life is life-giving. This is our second portion of our sausage-making expedition, if you want to call that. We're here at the Wołoszyn Dairy Farms with Steve Wołoszyn, the head, and today butcher and farmer. And we have along with him two of the greatest neighbor guys that they have here in Delavan, Eric and Ryan Ward. They've had made this before, so they're not just up here for show, okay? They also help on the farm a lot. So as we delve into the mystery of what sacrifice is and the fact that, well, the life that gives life is the one that's given, here we've already cut up the meat, and now we're just ready to grind it up, mix it up, and the next step after that will be stuffing the sausage.
Now that we've got the meat cut, we're ready to start grinding. I'm going to use the grinder that I got from my babci and dziadzia.
We are witnessing here the various aspects and phases of making sausage for Easter for the basket blessing. But as we've underlined, this is our way of accentuating here the fact that life is only given if it's taken. And just as Jesus' life was taken for us, and he gives us life, in the same way we somehow mimic, if you even want to use the word that way, where an animal gives his life, or is taken by the person who slaughters the animal, pours the blood, as we're hearing, and as we see, and witness the actual cutting, slicing, grinding, almost ameliorating the meat into almost nothing, but it needs to be mixed. That's why it needs to be fine. So we can experience ourselves a bit of what it is to give life. Remember, the meat is red because it has blood in it. And so that's our family expression of the extension of the Eucharist, of the blood of Christ. Here now is celebrated at the family table with father, mother, or relatives and friends around the table, the slicing of the sausage, even its smoking with the fire, the sacrificial fire itself, all call us back, especially those who participated in the making of the sausage, and all those various stages of making it, participated in that sacrificial act. And so therefore, whether you buy your sausage at a market or at the store, or you make it somewhat similar or maybe even different from what we did here, we are all sharing the life of an animal that gave its life for us. And that is a mirror, if you want to say, or an image of God who gives his life for us, which is what we celebrate during Holy Week, and which we also celebrate because this giving of life with the crucifixion, execution, death, and burial of Jesus also is not the end of the story. The end of the story is his resurrection, where what is the first thing Jesus does? Cooks for his disciples an Easter breakfast, the first Easter breakfast. Jesus is still giving his life. Oh yes, he used fish, not sausage, so there's a bit of a difference there. But he was by the lake shore, so they were fresh. And those fish gave their life so that we can be nourished. In the same way, everything we eat, everything from bread to meat, something has to give its life, as Jesus gave his life for us, so we would live forever.
Now we're going to put it in a bigger pan to mix.
So when did you start making sausage, Stefchu?
When I was probably since I was 4 or 5 years old. I grew up with this.
So first you put on what? What was that mixture? Salt, I guess, right?
Salt and pepper, and then a preservative to keep it, to help while you're smoking, to preserve it. Because of the slow time it takes to smoke, you add Instacure. And this is the water and garlic that we added now.
So you mix the garlic in with the water.
Yes, we grind it, do a fine grind. And this tub was from my parents. If I had a pink one, I could tell them that was the one I took a bath in when I was a baby.
But not this one.
Nope.
So when you started making, what did you do?
Well, I can, like Toshik said, I can remember holding the pig and stick the pig to catch the blood. Oh, and you had that big pig, you had to hold its mouth down, hold the feet. Yep, and the same. You used everything. They never could find the squeal got away, but you used everything but the squeal. For the sausage, we always bought casings, but when we made kishka, we would clean the intestine to make the kishka. That's one thing I don't know if I would do it, but I wish I knew how, because that was that homemade. My grandmother, both my babci and my grandmother's. My grandmother was half Polish. They could cook.
And you raise your own pigs sometimes now?
Yep, on the farm sometimes we raise, and then I've got some young neighbors. Kids are in 4-H, and they raise them for projects. So at the fair we buy a pig. That's what this one here. I bought it from my neighbor girl. It was her first year raising a pig, and we bought it at the fair. And that's where the majority of this meat came. I think we're good.
And you put the garlic in the water to help you mix it, right? It's easier to mix then.
Easier to mix, and for the stuffing, and you need, when you're going to smoke, you need extra water just to keep it moist.
I think Toshik said about 10%, was it? Water to meat or something in between there?
There's 15 pounds, and we've got, I think it's 6 cups. And sometimes if it dries, we'll add a little bit more.
When the sausage is already prepared and placed on the family table, it's usually presented round or something on that order, just like either the links of the sausage or a whole round sausage, which is a sign of family unity. Okay? And the links themselves, as all of us sitting at the table, we're connected to each other. We're connected by this meal. And the table itself is what brings us together. There is no buffets here. There's no self-service. Everybody's connected to each other. Everybody sits around the table like the round link of sausage, the round sausage, proclaiming that this is a life which is shared, which is a life that is given, and it's the life that is given because someone else, Jesus himself, gave his life for us.